Welcome to episode 205 of the Necronama.com. I am James Sabata, horror author, screenwriter, co-host of the podcast you're listening to right now, and we are gathered here today to discuss the less good version of a haunted house movie by James Wan with Patrick Wilson in it.
And I'm Don Guillory, author, historian, educator, co-host of the podcast that you are unfortunately listening to right now, because this movie, in my opinion, this movie is a 2-hour version of an Eddie Murphy joke about Amityville.
Wow. We've come out too strong. William's going to leave before we even introduce him.
I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
If William leaves? No, I'm kidding.
No. The Eddie Murphy reference.
So joining us today, William Sterling is here. Welcome back to the show, man.
Thank you. I'm, as always, so glad to be here. You two are some of my favorite people, and this podcast is just fantastic, and I love it every chance I get to stumble into here.
Your check's in the mail.
Just when you say we're your favorite people, I kind of question about the circles that you hang around.
They're very small circles, granted.
So, William, why don't you tell our listeners a bit about yourself, and then we'll get to the new book.
Let's do it. I am William Sterling. I am a novelist, writer, and I have a new book out as of last Friday called String Them Up, which is this small town horror novel about a person trying to escape the ghosts of his past and stumbling headfirst into the ghosts of his future now. There are murder puppets. There is a madman on the loose. There are peacocks set on fire, like everything you could possibly want.
I didn't know that I needed peacocks set on fire, but now I do.
I'm just trying to imagine.
Yeah, no, and I think I tied it all together well enough that it actually makes some sense. But it is a blender full of some of my favorite or most random story elements, and just like wrestling it all into some shape or form.
Nice. So you also have this other set of books that I adore, Kill or Be Killed.
Yay!
And tell everybody a bit about those as well.
Yeah, okay.
I love them.
Yeah, Kill or Be Killed are my they're my babies. Kill or Be Killed 1 was written as a way to try to get my love of writing back. I was trying to take everything way too seriously for a little while and trying to be, God, I hate this term. I was trying to go for elevated horror for a little bit. And I realized, A, I don't know what the fuck that means, and B, like, that's just not my energy. So Kill or Be Killed was me giving myself an excuse to just write something fun. So what's more fun than a slasher movie? So I went through the first book of the trilogy is I call it a reverse camp slasher novel, in the sense that it's a camp slasher book where you are openly encouraged to cheer for the thing from the woods to come in and just massacre the worst people in the world. Because that's what we end up doing anyhow. We cheer for Jason to come in and get some cool kills, and we like sleepaway camp. The murders are the fun part. But you always feel kind of bad cheering for the killer to kill all the innocent counselors because, you know, death is bad. So this was trying to rip all the guilt away and just encourage you to like revel in the bloodbath. I had so much fun writing it. It's turning into a trilogy now because I came up with a story arc that I think fits the characters and a trajectory for all of this to go. So book 2 came out earlier this year, and it is a reverse home invasion. Sort of the same idea where bad guys are breaking into the home, but the ways that the home is defended are just excessive and over the top, and blood and guts and gore everywhere I could possibly fit it in, and just having fun.
That's awesome.
I love Kill or Be Killed, and and not to go too deep in any direction here, but there's this massive thing that you're not talking about in Kill or Be Killed for obvious reasons, and that is like the real joy. So I just totally encourage people to check it out, if for no other reason, so that I can talk about that piece with more people. And then I did go back and I listened to our previous episodes. You did Saw, and I love Saw. Everybody knows that. So that was huge for me. But then you did Krampus, which is also, Krampus is one of my favorite Christmas traditions, if you will, because I don't have a better word for it. And then you did The Sixth Sense, and I did not love that movie. And as you know, I don't love this movie, but we had such a fantastic conversation about it. And that's always what I love about this show anyway. It's not about who likes what or any of that stuff, because, man, there's a lot of stuff out there people love that I will never understand, and the other way around. And I love that you give us amazing conversations. When I look at these movies, not so much maybe The Sixth Sense, but the others, I look at them on the surface level, and I'm like, I don't know if we're going to get a full hour out of this, And then instead, we always have these great conversations. So I just wanted to tell everybody to go check out those episodes as well after they dig this episode. Moving forward, I just want to say I hope your bar is coming along well, because I got to come visit it one day. And and outside of that, why don't you tell everybody why you picked The Conjuring, aside from nice, you're in the bar. That's amazing.
Yeah.
He just turned on his video. I had no idea.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Oh, I love the dolls behind you.
Yeah. They watch over me and smack me in the back of the head when I say things I'm not allowed to. It's great.
No. So aside from we'd already taken all the puppet movies you wanted to do, why did you pick The Conjuring?
Okay. I picked The Conjuring because I think that at face value, it is a really good modern classic horror movie. And there are a lot of reasons for that we're going to dig into. I think it does so many things so well. We all know from the Saw episode, I am a huge James Wan fan. He is my favorite director going right now. I will watch everything he puts out, whether that's, Saw, The Conjuring, or God forbid, Aquaman 2. I'll be there for him because I admire him so much. But I think this is a showcase of what makes him such a good director, while also being wildly problematic in so many ways. For every good point that we can heap praise onto, there are negative things that we need to address, especially on a social implications podcast like this one. There's elephants in the room, or ghosts, or ghost-shaped elephants in the room that need to be talked about. And I don't know, you guys are the right people to be tackling this with me, I think. And I cannot wait to dig in. So we get to heap praise on a movie, and we get to appreciate like horror craft at its finest, and also tear into fucking grifters for being who they are.
Yes.
And we talk more about that in an upcoming episode with Alex Woodrow, where we're looking at Cabinet of Curiosities. But we recorded that before we're here today, and the whole time I was watching this, I was like, man, I wish they'd already heard us talking about charlatans to come into this, because that is my absolute biggest complaint with The Conjuring, and it's the thing I can't get past. And I want to like this more than I do, but it's always flavored by my dislike for how they treat the Warrens. And so much of that is just that it's fucking unnecessary. All they had to do was model these two characters after the Warrens, and then name them literally fucking anything else. And I wouldn't hate this movie as much, but I hate how it glorifies them. So that's part of that problematic stuff we're going to talk about for sure.
Yeah, and it just seems to be getting worse and worse with every single entry into the Conjuring universe that they do. The ultra conservative propaganda is starting to seep in, and the glorification of Ed and Lorraine Warren is just getting worse and worse, and they're portraying them as these evangelical saviors of it, and it's way too much, even in this first movie. Yeah, I don't know.
What about you, Don?
Well, like I said, I have problems with them because once I found out who they were and what they did, this is kind of like the Exorcist as far as the type of PR that the Catholic Church would get. And I'll get more into it when we get to those parts, especially when the church is like, "No, we're not interested because they have been baptized." And da da da. I'm like, then what the fuck is your job?
We can't save you from demons if you're not making a weekly contribution.
This would be bad. And it goes into some stuff that I was researching, where dioceses all have their own issues, right? Some are good, some are not so good, some have some problems. And one of the things I've been researching as part of my dissertation is the way in which this one Catholic priest who was like, "I'm going to go help people," and his diocese was like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! If they're not poor, we can't offer anything to them. You can't push for public housing and hospitals and all these things for these people. We got money to make. We got to convert some folks." And just reading the documents, I'm like, holy shit. Like, you gave away the game, dude. You gave away the game. So anyway, this priest decided, he's like, fuck you guys. I'm going to go be a good person without, needing your approval. But yeah, I guess I said I was going to get into this more later, but I'll just do it now. The aspect of the Warrens bothers me because there's, you talk about grifting, you talk about being a charlatan, a con artist, a snake oil salesman, things like that. And there's this one point where I think Lorraine makes a comment about, I'm sorry. The husband makes a comment about what fear is. And what they're describing in the film, whether they mean to or not, what they're describing is the way in which people can get it taken advantage of because their emotional state. And if you're able to take people who are already fearful and offer them hope, they're more likely to trust you. I mean, even if the hope that you're giving has no concrete support, no evidence, no nothing, if you give them a sense that something is going to change for the better, then you've already won them, which is why you had so many people going out buying red hats. You tell them that things are fucked up. It's not your fault. Other people did this. And if I get the power to do it, I'm going to help you. Which, we see a lot of con artists doing in various fields.
And that's such a dangerous razor thin line to walk because there are so many people out there. My wife as a counselor, I think I've got on this rant before, but there are so many people out there that are in these deep, dark places, and they do just need somebody to help show them again that there is hope, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that they can overcome whatever bad thing is going on in their life, and just getting a helping hand for that. But then when the people offering that helping hand have, a tithings bucket in the other hand, that's when things start to go sideways. And in so many cases, there's no way of knowing what somebody's bigger intentions are while you're seeking help. And it just makes it this really dangerous, predatory or potentially predatory sort of a situation. Like you said, there are people in the church that are genuinely out there trying to do the right things, but it's not a given what their intentions are going to be, or what anybody's intentions are going to be when they're walking into these situations where people are so utterly desperate and they think their wife has been possessed by a demon and they need somebody to come help them put the pieces together and pull them out.
Right.
I mean, you see that in every aspect of life, but the part that I want to add to that is then once you've encountered these fakes or these predators or whatever else you want to call them, it gets exponentially harder to trust each person who might actually be trying to help you later.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
Fuck the Warrens. That's all I'm saying. But no. But I have this ongoing issue where I just want to know why they gave them these names and made them these people, and just kind of normalized what they did, but they act like it's good instead. And I remember I've never liked this movie, and I didn't hate it before, not like I do now. But I remember not liking it, and I couldn't remember why. And when I was rewatching it this time, and he starts doing the exorcism, I would love to have video of my face, because I was so angry, and I was like beyond furious at this. And it goes back to, if this was a completely fictional character, it would make me roll my eyes, but I wouldn't be as mad. Like, this seemed like it gave the Warrens this extra level of credibility, and then he's on the level of a priest. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what really bothered me about this.
So I want to posit a theory here based on absolutely no facts whatsoever.
Excellent.
I think that this was a Saw 2 kind of a situation where they had a really good haunted house script, and the studio wanted to find some way to make it a little bit more marketable and pull in just a little bit more juice on release day. They wanted that Texas Chainsaw Massacre based on a true story.
Okay. Yeah.
Backing. So they changed the names to Ed and Lorraine Warren, and they added a couple more details from the quote unquote true life story, just so they could say that. Because this movie goes so off the rails from anything that's actually reported from that first exorcism that this is supposedly based upon, that it completely just misses. There's no grounding in reality. It is based on a true story only in the sense that these names got added. Right. So I think they probably had this really good movie and just wanted to pull in a couple of extra bucks by adding this stuff on. And then it just spiraled into this thing in later and later movies where now we're so committed to the Warrens. And Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, I know I just butchered her name. They do such a good job that if I'm running this Conjuring verse franchise, I don't get rid of them. I don't move on from the Warrens because I can't move on from that actor and that actress doing such a good job. Right. You can't sub them out and bring in another pair of exorcists because those two are fantastic. They're just fantastic in a way that amplifies a not so great pair of people.
No, I agree with all of that, and I always will double down on the fact that somebody with money probably ruined a good story.
I'm willing to go with that. But yeah, I mean, with the two of you brought up with when I was teaching my film as history course, and I've talked about on panels, the most dangerous words you can add to any film based on a true story, based on true events, because just those words themselves get taken so out of context to where that the person who's reading it or sees it in a trailer is like, oh shit, this was real. Now, once you're behind, once you've done the research and you've seen how that phrase or those phrases get used, you realize how much of it's just marketing. There is no, I mean, documentaries themselves are based off of true events, but they even take some leeway with things that took place or the chronology of events in order to tell a narrative. Whereas this one, because of the subject matter you're dealing with demons and the occult and exorcisms and hauntings and all that stuff, those people who already believe or have some sense of belief in it, now it gives them a little bit more, I guess, more ammunition to believe in what they already believe in. and then you have an entity or institution like the Catholic Church signing off on it or endorsing it. So now it's given even more validity. And really what the issue is, and I'm not even going to mention, the whole idea of making money off of it. The whole idea for a lot of people consuming it is, I want to believe that there's something there. And this is a conversation I have with my mom, because not that she has an issue with, me and my wife and my daughter being non-religious. For her, it's more, I don't know if I can get rid of these beliefs that I have because I'm fearful and believing that there's nothing out there. And I would just simply, my simple response is, Mom, I don't know. I'm not going to go ahead and say that this way is the truth or this way is the truth. My thing is, I don't know. And because I don't know, I'm not going to subscribe to a belief system that is already based on of just trust us. Trust me, bro.
Trust me, bro. That's perfect. I want to like start my next book with based on a conversation I overheard in a restaurant.
Do it.
No,
and knowing what your next book is, agree. I think that's perfect.
But I do think I think you're definitely onto something. I think that this wasn't necessarily about the Warrens when it started, and then it got shoehorned, and then obviously when it works, and it worked well. What was their budget? Like 20 million, and they made like, I want to say it's like 380, something like that, but I don't know exactly. I'm not looking it up.
No, it was low because God, what was that other one? Talk to Me. Their budget was like 4 million. Their budget was I know they made like over $300 million, but the budget for the film was really low.
Yeah, the budget was $20 million, and the worldwide bring in was $319.5 million.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. But, I mean, so obviously when you do that, you're gonna keep doing what worked.
Right.
It's that simple. Nobody would back off of this and be like, you know what? We made the Warrens look too good. Let's not use them again. So I absolutely agree with what you said, William. So yeah, let's, I don't know. Do you guys have more to say about the Warrens, or shall we move into the?
I'll get into it when we get into the story.
Yeah, I'm going to keep throwing them under the bus as we go, but for now,
they're cats, so they have 9 lives. You get 9 chances to kill them off in this episode. Ready, go. All right. Not to dominate the whole conversation here. I think this is the last big thing I have to say. I just want to say that the first time that I saw this movie, I was like, why did they do this when they had this great story about this doll? And I felt like, wow, they really overlooked the most obvious thing they should have made a movie about. And then Annabelle came out, and I was like, oh, good, they made it about the doll. And then I watched it, and I was like, oh, they fucked that up too. And so I just wanted to know, like, did you guys like have this same kind of thought that it should have been about Annabelle the first time, or like, was that just a cool side story for you? And how do you feel about the others? Because I know you guys have seen way more than I have.
I'm going to let my good friend Sterling go first before I unleash the fury.
Okay.
If you don't mind me volunteering you to go first.
Yeah, no. I got this. I think my answer is going to bump into what you're going to get into a little bit, but I'll try to leave the majority of that tirade up to you.
Feel it all. That's the best thing. Do it.
I think in my mind, the Conjuring universe did what Marvel tries to do, but they did it a little bit better in a weird way. So in every single movie in the Conjuring verse, you get 1 or 2 little teases for another movie. So in this first one, you see the Annabelle doll rolling around a lot, and you get the little carousel thing that's going to come into play later. And then you move forward, and in the Conjuring 2, you've got the nun running around, and that's going to spin off into something new, something else later on. You still get these very self-contained stories,
right?
But there are these shout outs to what's going to come later. And I think that's the way to do it. Whereas every Marvel movie just feels like a trailer for the next one. Like the stories aren't even contained within the movies they're telling anymore. They're just stepping stones to get to the next one. The Conjuring universe tells their own story, has little like shout outs to what's coming next, but then stays focused on what they're doing in the there and now in a way that's eventually good and in the payoff. I think this first Conjuring movie is good. I think The Conjuring 2 is really good. I think The Nun has problems and the first Annabelle movie has problems, but then they figure it out again later on. Like Annabelle Comes Home is probably my favorite movie from the entire Conjuring verse, but we've got neighbors that watch horror movies with us sometimes. Keyword on sometimes. They're not going to sit through an entire Conjuring universe marathon like we would have to do with the Marvel movies. But they came over the other night and we threw on Annabelle Comes Home, and it was a good time for everybody. Me, who knows the deeper implications of what's going on with this family and all of these little trinkets they've got locked in their closet. It was a good time for them who hadn't seen a single Conjuring movie other than that one. It was just so self-contained and worked on its own. I appreciate how they handle that. Even if sometimes the self-contained stories are utter misses. Cough, The Nun 2, end cough. But yeah, Don, throwing it to you now.
All right. Two things with this, and I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I felt as though, to piggyback off what you're saying, I felt as though there was a major missed opportunity because you start me off. Again, I like to go into movies spoiler free. So I went and I'm like, oh shit, this is going to be about a killer doll. This is going to be great. It's because you're giving us because I even checked the time on it, roughly about 5 to 8 minutes of it's about the doll. It's about the doll. These people are fucked, have all this messed up stuff that's happened to them because of the doll. They throw the doll away. The doll comes back. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be great. And then it turns into Amityville. And that's nothing against Amityville. What I mean, it's that same story of like, oh, happy family is moving into a house and bad shit starts happening. And I immediately thought of the Eddie Murphy joke where he says, you know what? You couldn't do Amityville horror with a black family because as soon as the house says, get out, I'm like, you know what? It's a nice house, but you know what? We need to move to another neighborhood. So that's what I keep saying. Like even the dog say like will not cross the threshold to go into the house. And that should be that's a sign to an audience member, like something bad is going to happen. And then of course the dog has an early exit. Spoiler alert, the dog dies. And I know James hates that.
No.
I don't hate that. I hate that the dog had the same name as my 17-year-old cat that died this year. But outside of that,
Jesus Christ. But with this movie, it has a lot, or it had a lot of potential. But then again, I think about where we were in 2013. You're testing the waters with this. You're dipping your toes into a potential new franchise, universe, whatever you want to call it. And you have to kind of give the viewing public, both domestically and internationally, something that's safe. And I don't mean as far as the warrants. I just mean like the general story of like, oh, it's a family going into a haunted house and crazy shit happens. And we involve like the Catholic Church and exorcisms and all these things. There's a lot they could have really gone into. But then again, how are you going to get people to invest that much time into a movie that's going to have like this specific feel to it when the goal of this movie is to get butts in the seats, as opposed to we're going to make something that's really going to be game changing, really going to be defining. And when I saw this movie initially, I saw it in the movie theater when it came out, and I was dating my then wife. And we went to go see the movie because she loves horror movies. And I was like, great, this is a winner. I'm keeping this one. So we went to the movies and watched it. And the stuff that didn't work for me was working for the general audience. As far as like, I hate to call anybody a casual fan of horror, but as far as those people that look at horror as like, I'm going to see one scary movie a year, or I'm going to see a scary movie when it comes out, or if a friend recommends it, but I'm not into all this. So what I saw from the reactions of people that were there were a lot of oohs and ahs. There were jumps. There was this, and I'm sitting there like, when she said clap your hands, I'm like, it's gonna be the fucking ghost. I mean, what else is it gonna be? And you hear, and half the theater jumped when the clapping happened. There was one lady who jumped when the kid was inside the crawl space. Now it wasn't a scary scene. It just took her off guard. And what happened was she was already so freaked out by everything that this now added to it. So you had a movie where people could leave and they could talk about it, but I don't think it was a movie where people left the movie and thought, holy shit, this is wild. What they left thinking was like, oh shit, there's going to be a movie about a doll. And that was what I took from that audience when I saw, and it was a packed theater. That was what I got from them, was like, oh man, that movie was crazy, but I want to see that one with the doll. And that was where they really would have made a really good stand. You got a doll that's not like Chucky. You got a doll that's not like oh my gosh, like Billy the Puppet from Saw. You got a doll that's not going to be like the doll from Dead Silence, or even was it Slappy from Goosebumps. You got a possessed, nasty, demonic doll that you've already explained how it comes to be. Now you can have a movie where it's like, no, this is just going to be the doll fucking things up, which would be awesome. But again, I felt as though they went with a safe direction, which is always a good way to go when you're going to invest this money to try and make a lot. But then you make a lot of money, and then that gives you opportunity to start making things that can be good. And then you realize where you messed up with this movie, and then you adjust with the other one. Because the original Annabelle movie that was made, I did not like. I wanted to like it. I almost left the movie theater because it didn't hit those right notes. It felt like you went with a safe movie to start off your franchise, and then you went with a safe movie to enter this new character, or to allow the entrance of this character with their own standalone movie. Whereas the later ones with Annabelle Begins, and that one does a great job of giving you what Annabelle can do, and just the gore that's in that, the shock, the jump scares. For me, they fit well, and they did a very good job, as opposed to what was kind of done in this movie, where it's very predictable.
I want to interject really fast that I jump at everything, whether it's a jump scare or not. Any noise in the theater will make me jump. I jump all the time in my real life. Like, Dawn has had to sit next to me at horror movies and been like, you jumped at that? And I'm like, I can't help it. Like, it's just what I do. And the clapping, as I call it, is one of my favorite jump scares ever. Like, even though I know it's coming, I never get sick of that scene. So that is one thing I will say that I absolutely adore in this. But I also love the other one where it's in the closet. Like, I think that one's really well done as well. But then I feel like the jump scares just get every 20 seconds and it wears off on me. So I don't know. But I had to throw it in because you mentioned the clapping, and I love that scene.
I'm going to start calling it the clapping now. I didn't even think about that. I mean, because that's your other favorite movie, is The Happening, so we may as well.
Right. Adore it. I'm having a triple watch party with that and The Lighthouse. So anyway, yeah, William, you got anything to add to everything Don said?
Yeah, I agree a lot with the idea that they played it safe with this one. I had a slightly different I walked away with a slightly different impression of them playing it safe, though, with again, massive James Wan fan here. I don't think they did anything in this first movie that was new.
Right.
Every single story beat, every single scare, it is stuff we have seen before. They are staples of the haunted house trope. Like, does the dog die? Yes, of course the dog dies, because it's one of those movies.
Right.
Are we going to have a scene where the kids wake up in the middle of the night and they think they see something in the standing in the corner? Of course they are, because it's one of those movies. But what I appreciated about this was James Wan took every single one of those stereotypes, crammed it into one movie for us, and was like, I can do it well.
Right.
Yes, they're gonna come every 10 seconds, but I can hit every single one of these tropes, and I can hit them a little bit better than we've seen done anytime recently. So that's why I like this movie so much, is it is a very easily presentable haunted house movie for anybody that you're trying to introduce to horror. This is going to scare you. We're going to hit all the staples with it, and it's going to be done well. Just stop calling them Ed and Lorraine Warren. But besides that, every part of this is going to be done so well. And it's just, I think of it as a very good starter horror movie for somebody that's wanting to get into the genre. Okay, you want to know what all these staples are? Here we go. This is all of them for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
the fact that... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just think that the fact that James had the balls to dive into a movie like this that is so straightforward and to execute it so well, yes, bravo, good sir.
And I think there's a oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jay.
No.
I was gonna say there is a fix to getting rid of the Warrens, and this is not their movie. No. Well, no, I wouldn't even say that. They're not there, right? They're not the ones writing the movie. They're just the ones that are given their names are attached to this, right? Real simple. You have somebody who attended one of their meetings, or you have, their assistant or somebody else. It turns into, this is now them venturing out on their own, a completely fictitious person. You still have that reference to it, so you still kind of stay within the universe. But now it's somebody who's not attached to the church, but they understand various religions, the history of demonology, and all these things, right? And they go and start doing it themselves. And you have these first initial ones where it's like the person keeps fucking up, like they think that they've gotten. I'll just use Pazuzu. They think that it's Pazuzu that happens to be possessing some child's soul, and it's actually a trickster god, like it might be Anansi or something. So you get to delve into the worlds of these different religions respectfully. You get to delve into the worlds of these religions as far as the demons or trickster gods that are associated with those religions, and show that it's not just a simple Catholics versus demons story. You now have Judaism that could be involved. Maybe you have an issue where you've got an old widow who's dying, who happens to be Jewish. She's dying. She keeps seeing all these visions, but none of the rabbis understand what's going on. And they pick up the phone. They call, Mike Smith, because this guy has been writing books about demons and whatever. And he goes to do the research. Like there's a way that you could do it to where you still have the general direction of the storyline, but it has nothing to do with the Warrens. So if you guys are listening out there in Hollywood,
I have a really dumb story I can tell that ties into this.
Please
do it.
So I went to college at a place called Berry College in Rome, Georgia. And if you need some framing for what Rome, Georgia is, this is where Marjorie Taylor Greene got elected from. So imagine a college planted in the middle of that territory.
No.
Berry College is split into two different campuses. There is main campus where the normal people live. Mm-hmm. And then there is Mountain Campus, which is a wind-shape retreat funded by Chick-fil-A, hyper-religious focus. They're those people. My freshman year, we get word that Mountain Campus is doing a big religious gets-together I think it was like a Friday night convocation sort of a thing that the students were going to lead. I don't know. But the reason it sticks with me is because apparently at the halfway point of this thing, one of the people from Mountain Campus jumped up in their seat and started speaking in tongues. Another person, college student on Mountain Campus, had apparently done a study abroad in Africa and had seen a couple of exorcisms conducted by the Catholic Church. So here's the connection. They had seen exorcisms conducted by the Catholic Church, and they decided, there's a demon in our midst. I could do that too. I watched too. So on our campus, we had a student attempting to perform an exorcism on a girl that was having a moment. It got national news. We had NBC on our campus for the next week. And it was just a complete and utter shit show of an event. So I think there is a lot there that those Hollywood people that are definitely listening to this episode could draw on. You have a college student hanging out with the Warren for a couple of days, and then they go try to do it on their own and just unleash the demon instead of pacifying it. Let's go. I want it. Set it at Barry. They need the PR.
I'm cutting all of this so that William and I can work on our new book together. And no. So, I just spoiler alert. Once the demon was unleashed, is that the one that got elected from that area? Then, or?
This is where she came from. This is the origin story.
Marjorie comes home.
Some blonde lady wearing weird white fur robes comes crawling out of the woods and screaming about, attacking Kevin McCarthy.
I'm going to need you to narrow it down more. All I was going to say earlier, as much as I'd like to just keep saying, can you imagine, and getting cut off the rest of the episode, I think that would be fun as well. I was just going to say, can you imagine the joy of having not seen movies like this? And this is your entry point to jump scares and that would be so much fun. Like, I know I'm taking a lot of shots at this movie, but that would be so ridiculously overwhelming and awesome. Like, you would leave like, holy fuck, what the hell just happened? You know? I don't know. I think that would be fantastic.
The three of us are big horror fans, and we watch these movies a lot. So there's definitely a desensitization, that's not a word, effect that it's going to have on us at a certain point. But you're right. Like, if I told my wife yesterday that I was watching this movie to get ready for the episode, and I turned it on in the basement, and I'm sitting here surrounded by my murder puppets and watching this movie with a joy. But I'm watching the movie, and it was the first time in a while that I had to warn her, like, do not let the kids wander down here to like ask me a question or something, because they do that sometimes. And there will be scary movies on in the background, but they don't really care about it. But they're 4 and they're 2, and if they walked in on any given scene of this movie, it would break them, because they are exactly what you're talking about. Like, they haven't seen any horror movies before, unless we count, Paw Patrol, and that's terrifying in its own regard.
Are you going to go see the new Paw Patrol movie? I am.
We're doing Saw Patrol.
Saw Patrol. There you go.
Nice.
We're going to start at Paw Patrol, and I'm going to endure that, and then I'm going to offer it to my kids. Hey, you guys want to come into another movie with me? And they're going to be like,
you're going to be like, Dad, I've only seen 3 of the others. I can't go to number 10. You know. I think that my experience would be similar, except I wouldn't be worried about my daughter seeing anything on the screen. I would be worried that she would come up and touch me while I was watching this movie. And
knowing your kid, that's exactly what would happen.
And then I'd have to clean my pants and clean the sofa. And I mean, there's just too much that would happen there. So, but yeah, so, hey, I don't remember what I was going to say, so we'll just say fuck that. Where do you want to go next?
We talked about the clapping, so I feel like asking about favorite scares is kind of redundant because that's the clear winner, right?
It is for me. Don?
Not for me. My favorite part, well, there are a couple ones. One, comedically and scarily, I guess if that's another one, would be with Sadie the dog not wanting to go in the house because I'm sitting there thinking about all the times my dog has done similar stuff like that. Not as far as like I'm not going, you simply like, hey, come here. And your dog or your cat, because your cat doesn't actually come to you, but doing that to your dog and it doesn't come to you, you don't think twice about it. You don't think like, oh, there could be a demon in this place, right? But it made me think after that, and still is going to make me think about it today. If I call Rocky over and he doesn't want to come over and be like, why the fuck are you standing outside of the door? What's going on here, buddy? And then the other one, which was a really cool shot, a really cool moment, I guess it's two, is when Vera Farmiga's character, Lorraine, sees her daughter floating by in the water. I wasn't a parent when I saw this movie the first time. I'm a parent now. And so the idea of seeing your child dead, not necessarily jump scare, not something that's really, but just that glimpse of the body gliding by in the water, submerged, and understanding the power that she has to see stuff, that would freak you out. And the other one, as far as scary, would have to be when they're outside, when the Warrens are outside and she feels something, and then you see on the screen that there's some dangling, rotting feet that are hanging right next to Ed's head. And I think it's just a great shot. It's a creepy shot. It's something that lets you know that the stakes are pretty high at this point, as far as trying to figure out what's going on. But then you also get, throughout this movie, you get a cool little, I guess, reflection on history as well.
I always confuse that shot with the tree with Sinister.
Yes.
I could definitely see that.
They're both so good. But yeah.
I think the other jump scare I really like, even though it was so, I don't know, it feels telegraphed to me. Maybe it doesn't to people that don't watch as much stuff as we do, like you said. But it's the look what you made me do jump scare. Or look what,
it made me think about Taylor Swift, but
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's where we all have to go with it because we're all big Swifties and we like to use her lyrics wherever we can. But yeah, I really like that. Just when he's turning and coming out and she just I love that jump scare as well.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of good stuff for as much as I talk shit about this. There's just
well, it's that, but even the circumstances, right? So when this family, I honestly, I always forget the family's name because one, there's so many kids. You got 7.
There are 22 children. I counted them.
You got the 7 people in the family, right? The Warrens show up. Their assistant shows up. That one cop that is just a bumbling cop is there, right? So the first thing when this idea about, well, why don't you move? And they're like, well, we sunk all our, and I just think about how people always act as though that's such a simple thing to say. It's like, oh, why don't you just move?
All right.
These guys have what money? Like, how are they going to do it? And the father makes a joke and say, hey, you want to buy my house? At one point later on. And I just think about the way the house would be listed, right? 3,000 square feet, 5 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, fixer-upper, live-in demons, and a cellar that's been boarded up for some reason. We don't know why, but we're going to, open it up and explore. Which I then ask again, just leave shit alone. Like maybe it's not supposed to be messed with. Maybe it's there for a reason.
They had terrible home inspectors when they bought this house.
Well, that you would think that something like that would be on a housing disclosure. And I don't mean as far as like the ghosts or the demons, but the idea that, hey, by the way, some lady killed her children and herself on this land, because a death has to be recorded. I don't know if it was the same laws in 1971 when they got the house, but if somebody dies in your home or on your property, it has to be disclosed. If there are dead bodies on your property, they have to be disclosed. And I'm referring to like burying people, not, dumping bodies onto the land. That'd be a little suspicious.
Not as suspicious as 7 people in a family who can't finish one pizza. That's pretty fucking suspicious. Anyway.
That was very
How
strange.
How many of them were ghost children and just didn't eat?
At least 2.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because it only seems as though like 2 or 3 of the kids get attention.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The rest are like Haunting of Hill House. They're just running around in the background, and like we see them, but the family themselves don't.
That would have been a great twist if we found out that one of the kids wasn't their kid, and that we've been like following this kid all through this. I have one thing that totally confuses me in this, and since we're kind of talking about like why don't you leave? It really fits in this scene. If the whole thing is that the witch doesn't want anyone owning her land, and then the Warrens are like they tell them this, but then they're also like, oh, we can't leave, we can't do that. Why didn't the Warrens just be like, look, if you leave, it'll just fucking fix itself, because then she won't be mad that anybody owns her land. Like,
right?
I don't know. That's the
because it's not attached to you; it's attached to the land.
Yeah, it's just so odd.
I've seen this movie at least 4 times. I never remember how it ends. So last night when I was rewatching it, I made a point of like really focusing for the ending and trying to remember why it's so unmemorable. And this I think, the one part of the movie that does the trope again, just does what we're expecting, but it does it so poorly that it seems at odds with the rest of the movie, and it's instantly forgettable.
Mm-hmm.
Vera reaching through the floorboards and holding the mom's head and just telling her, remember your family, remember that you love these people. And then she vomits a couple times and it's like, oh yeah, that's right, I do love them, demon be gone. It's just
such a typical mom. I'm terribly sick and dying, but you're right, I do love my kids, let's move on.
Right, and it's just this 30 seconds dismissal of any sort of a threat that they built up through the rest of the movie. I want to forget that ending because I think it undercuts a lot of the good work they did leading up to that point.
Right.
Well,
and
even
go ahead.
Well, even the picture that does all this, right? What the fuck kind of family goes to the beach and takes a picture where you can't see the beach and you can't see the ocean? Like, who are these people? They're like, oh, look at this great picture with the sky. And this is all solely like nobody would take this picture. That's my point, right? And then it's solely set up so that Lorraine can be like, oh, you were at the beach and it was a wonderful day. And, and then that being the catalyst at the end, when we had a fucking attempt at an exorcism in both Latin and English, I might add, and somehow all that matters is this stupid fucking picture that doesn't make sense to begin with.
Right.
I hate everything about this, but I also hate that this incredible demon that's been so powerful, a sheet, oh my god, a sheet, I can't do anything.
It's like that video of somebody throwing a sheet on an alligator's head and like wrestling it afterwards. Like, no, nobody do that. Nobody take this as canon. Like, erase this one part.
It's so weird. Yeah. What were you going to say, Don?
Oh, I was just going to point out that you also see a lot of sexism in this, and not necessarily by design from the filmmakers, but as far as like the way the story is, the backstory, and also the idea of, for the longest time, and we're talking about up until the 1970s, the autonomy of women. Well, hell, even now, the bodily autonomy, the personal autonomy, the financial holdings, land holdings, things like that, for women were heavily controlled by men, and to the point where, there were women who could not own land in some states. There were some women who could not open up a bank account in their name. And the way that this is framed is, without saying it, it's telling this history of sexism and misogyny that's present because this woman is having her land taken away from her by other people, and she doesn't have an advocate. She doesn't have a voice. She doesn't have anybody who's there to protect her. And it just immediately made me think about all the times in which women were deemed insane or suffering from hysteria because they wanted to have something of their own, or labeled as witches. Which, you know, I also, while I was watching, I started to think about, like, who the hell is to say that she actually was a witch? What if this is somebody who was simply saying it to steal her land? Which is possible. What if it was somebody who was, you know, willing to do anything they could to take this land because they did not feel a woman was worthy of possessing it? No pun intended.
Possessing.
Well, I mean, that's 90% of what happened at the Salem witch trials. As soon as
Right.
women would inherit land or marry and become a widow, then get the land that way. You know, like, so that would very much fit in. I don't know. I don't like. I'm back to just whining about things. I'm sorry, but like the whole concept that you know, we get this almost she was innocent and killed at Salem, but then she's really a witch and slaughtering. Like, I don't know. This is all fucking weird to me.
But again, it's that entry level where you don't have to explain a whole bunch of stuff, because this is going to be something, and I mean entry level as far as into this universe. But it's also something that's going to be good for casual horror fans. And I don't mean this as an insult. I just mean this in the nicest way possible. You don't have to think. You just get to enjoy the movie. And again, I'm not saying that in a negative way. It's because we all need movies like that from time to time. But for a general audience who is, you know, casual horror fans, they know who Freddy is, you know, Jason is, they know who Chucky is, Leatherface and Mike Myers. They know those guys, right? But by having this as their entrance into horror, or at least their re-entry into horror, you don't have to over-explain things. You don't have to give a complex story. And I think that's a good thing. It doesn't have to be, sorry, well, I'm going to go there again. I mean, you went there, but I'm going to go there again. You don't have to present it as elevated horror to get people who don't like horror to watch it. You just simply present it as, here's a cool ghost story. Here's a cool possession story. Here's a cool monster story. Here's something that, you know, you might get freaked out by, but your friends who are into spooky shit are going to criticize, you know, until the credits roll, and after the credits roll, for that matter.
Here's a movie to like this October. Yeah. So social commentary wise, one of the things that sticks out to me the most, and maybe this is based on the real family or whatever, I don't know, but the 5 daughters. I keep thinking if 1 or 2 of these were boys, we would suddenly have a different story just because of how it's told. I think we'd get you're the man of the house while I'm away, and you got to protect them. And I think that a lot of the vulnerability would be portrayed very differently. And I was just wondering what you guys think of that. Like, for me, it would be more interesting if like the youngest one was a boy, and that's the one she was going to sacrifice. But outside of that, what do you guys think about the 5 girls?
I think they overdo it, because between this movie and the next one, you've got 8 daughters, and there are no sons. So I didn't think about that until you brought it up. But that would be a good way to look at it, is like, how would the gender dynamic or the changes in gender actually play out? Because you would have, especially with the 1970s, you still would have this idea of like, all right, I'm going to go drive my truck across country or drive my route. All right, son, take care of the girls, you know, because even mom is a girl. Take care of the girls because I'll be gone for like 2 or 3 days, and leave it as that. I don't know how much different it would be other than entering the gender dynamic that you presented. Because it seems like it's all about going after the girls, just same way as it's going after, well, shit, even the dog is a girl.
Oh, wow.
It's the idea of the vulnerability of women, you know, as opposed to if it had been a boy, God damn it, James, you've corrupted me. I'm going to say it. If it had been a boy, I'm pretty sure that the priest would have been a little bit more open to going there as opposed to outright denying a visit there. I'm saying that as a former Catholic. And as especially considering what was going on unregulated or unwatched in the 70s with the church.
Womp womp.
William, do you have anything to add to that?
Nothing to add really. I don't know. I've got a very cynical story creator. I can't get away from the idea that I don't think this was intended to be a Conjuring, like an Ed and Lorraine Warren movie to start with. Because and I think the kids lend a little bit of credibility to that because all of the kids are such flat characters.
Yeah.
None of them get any sort of development. And I don't know if it would have mattered if there were boys or girls or if there were 1 or 5 of them. I think they just needed a kid for a couple of the scenes, like the clapping game, to set that up. And then they just they looked at the inspired by true events things and were like, oh shit, this family had 5 daughters. What the fuck? Where are we going to find 5 actresses? Fine, we'll do it because we need that tag. And we'll just have 5 munchkins running around in the background. But why couldn't they have just done 2 munchkins running around in the background?
I think they could have easily done 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
3, but yeah.
They didn't. Having the 5 different daughters there didn't add anything to the movie that just having 2 kids running around wouldn't have accomplished. And you can kind of feel the script avoiding the volume of kids. We have very few scenes where all the kids are in the same room interacting in any meaningful way with the parents. It's always 1 or 2 of them being there and then shuttled out. I think there's one scene where they're running off to the bus where the 5 of them are seen together, but otherwise it's it seems like they're avoiding that intentionally. And honestly, as a viewer, I totally lost track of some of the kids. Shit, I forgot that actress was even a thing and she just ran across the background. Okay, cool.
Right.
She's here again.
And even the things that they each do, you could have easily accomplished with 2 or 3 kids. You can do the leg pull, you can do the door, you can do the sleepwalking and slamming your head into the closet. That could have been in that same room. You could do all of these things, and I don't see any purpose to 5 of them. But I'm glad that 5 people got paid and got to be in a movie. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, good for them. And yeah, I don't know. I don't think it would have mattered to the filmmakers if it was a boy or girl. I think there are a lot of cool dynamics that they could have played with and exposed from the 1950s from that, like Don was saying. But I don't think anybody was interested in that for this movie, which is, a little disappointing and a little bit tropey. The family just being there to get scared is definitely a haunted house trope that we see played with. And this just leans into that so hard.
One of the, while we're talking about kids, Ed and Lorraine also have a daughter and they have a daughter in real life. And in 1971, she was 25. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Right. So aging her down just for the floating in the river moment having more of an effect, it again kind of lends to my idea we want this one scare in here because body floating in the river, Shutter Island got to do it, so let's us do it too. I don't know.
I don't like her scene where she's being attacked. I don't feel like it really makes sense, but I also feel like they've already done it. We've already had Dad arrive in the nick of time to save his daughters when they're being attacked back at the regular house, right? So then we do another parents arriving in the nick of time to save her at the Warrens' house. And I don't know, it just felt very unnecessary and weird. And I don't know if this goes back to the trailer for the next movie because we got more Annabelle, but outside of that, I felt the whole thing was very strange and I don't know, unnecessary. And then, you know, she's supposed to be 25. So you get a scared a 25-year-old too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could imagine seeing her because you've already got that death scene with the witch or who's presumed to be the witch hanging from the tree. I mean, you could easily have the same thing where it's like, I see another body and it's my daughter this time. And then she's freaking out because, again, she's the only one who could see it. Ed can't see any of this shit. He's he's a self-trained demonologist who doesn't have permission from the church to do to do an exorcism, which again would be interesting because why the hell do I need your permission?
Yeah,
I don't have permission from the church to do this. I'm like,
we need to decide if this family is really worthy of being saved before we go do our jobs.
Because they haven't been baptized. They're not on our team, so we can't help them out. I'm like, that is the least Christian thing I've ever heard in my life.
I don't know. They're Methodists, so like,
I give the demons a win.
I can imagine they're keeping score back in the Vatican. Holy Father, we lost like, I don't know, about 50 souls. 50 souls. What religion were they? Pentecostal, Presbyterian, Baptist. Fuck them. I don't care. They're not our team.
My fantasy demonology team is screwed for this week.
God damn it, Beelzebub. You were supposed to take virgins.
It'd be kind of great if the demon like purposely didn't go for Catholics, you know, like, oh, can't come exercise me. So
And he does the whole raspberry with his fingers flailing against his head thing. It's like, can't catch me. I'm the devil.
You broke me.
Not really the devil. We're like really close friends. Well, we're not really friends. We just live in the same neighborhood. Well, not really the same neighborhood, but we are in the same realm. Okay, I don't know him. We've never met. You find out it's some god with an inferiority complex. I will say that the little girl getting thrown across the room by her hair was great. Well, the dragging part and, of course, getting thrown across the room.
Yeah. Oh, that was good.
Good visual. I mean, especially, and I hate to say, especially for the time, but good visuals that were used to, again, add some shock value, add some scares, add some jumps. But I don't know. I'd like it in general, but I don't like it as a horror fan, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so that
I don't dislike it, but I mean, as far as like, I don't see anything where I'm like, I could watch this every Halloween.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. But also that for the time comment has me realizing there's like very little CGI, if any, in this movie. It's all practical effects, and just like, thank you for that, James.
All right. Well, then I guess that brings us to movie recs. So if people liked this movie, what else should they watch, William?
Okay, I've got 3 for you in a kind of scaled order. The first movie I'm going to recommend, if you like very classic scares and you like the like overt religious overtones, Signs, weirdly. It's got a lot of scares that are set up and framed and executed in super similar ways. You've still got all of the preachy religiousness that M. Night Shyamalan is, committed to for reasons. But it's good. And I had forgotten about this until I rewatched it recently, but it's legitimately pretty funny. Mel Gibson running around the house, pretending to be a person that doesn't know how to act crazy and acting crazy poorly when in real life he's legitimately insane. Like just the fourth wall comedy of that. Love it. Beautiful.
It's almost like you felt he should have been calling an ex and like yelling at her on the phone.
Right.
You brought these aliens.
But that one's probably the closest we're gonna get to this. If you want a haunting movie, or in this case TV show that plays on familial relationships but moves away from the religious aspect of things, Mike Flanagan's Haunting of Hill House is, in my mind, just fucking perfection. You've got classic scares executed so well. You don't have to deal with the Ed and Lorraine Warren bullshit. You can just kick back and enjoy it. And then if you want to get away from the religious stuff, but still have a demon fucking with people in really good, inventive ways, Host from Jed Shepard from a couple of years ago, from in 2020. Nice. I thought it did the demonic, not possession necessarily, but just the demonic interference play so well.
Oh,
and those are my three.
Nice. All right, double feature time. I'm going with The Changeling. Like I said, it's one of the few movies that still scares the hell out of me, and I just adore it. But it's got a lot of the same types of scares. I think they'd go well together if you're looking for that sort of thing. The other one that I would throw out that I was going to go with was Oculus. I think Oculus would pair well with this. Yeah. All right, Don.
Again.
All right.
87 movies.
Well, you're close. All right. So, Mama, these are in no particular order. And just to shorten, I'll say anything that's in the Conjuring universe, things like Annabelle, The Nun, I would just stick with all the Annabelle stuff for that matter. Paranormal Activity series, again, Crimson Peak, Don't Breathe, The Others, It Follows, The Curse of La Llorona, obviously The Exorcist, Lights Out, Ouija, Devil. I've referenced Dead Silence at one point, Hush, The Visit, and last but not least, Skeleton Key.
Nice.
Because it's about fucking with shit you shouldn't be fucking with.
We have a great episode on Skeleton Key. I don't remember who the guest was, but he was very knowledgeable, and you guys should check it out. Oh,
he sounds like I was gonna say, sounds like he was a dumbass, but anyway. Those are all great choices. So William, you want to bring us back to your new book and where people can find it and where they can follow you on social media now that Twitter is dead and all that good stuff?
Yeah, let's do it. So if you want more murder puppets like Annabelle, but if you want them at the forefront of the story instead of, tucked away in a little glass case with a lock on it, my new book, String Them Up, is out now through Crystal Lake Entertainment. I'm really proud of it. I think it does an okay job of balancing like good scares with good comedy. I think it's just a fun time all around, but that's my opinion. You yell at me in the comments. If you want to find me, I am still on X or Twitter or whatever the fuck. I'm at spooky_Sterling, but for how long is to be determined. I'm also on Blue Sky at spookysterling.bsky or whatever they're doing. Seriously, Blue Sky, get your handles under control so we can actually promote your stupid fucking platform. Anyhow. Right. Spooky Sterling on Blue Sky. If you search that, you'll find me. And I'm also on Instagram at spooky_Sterling.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you for doing yet another episode with us, William. And we look forward to when you do signs next. And
cheers. I'm game. You tell me when and where.
Oh man, I get to talk shit about Mel Gibson. Sign me up.
We'll record your hour-long rant before we make William come on. All right.
No, I'll just play the one from Key and Peele.
Oh man. All right. I suppose that concludes another episode. So as always, I am James Sabata.
And I'll never get invited to do an exorcism.
And we'll see you next week here at thenecronomid.com.